Well, howdy do, buckaroo. It's been a while. Usually this would be the part of the video where I dedicate a few minutes to a long-winded speech about taking a break, coming back feeling super positive and refreshed, ready to tackle the challenges put in my way. Well, I'm not gonna do that. What I am going to do, however, is politely ask that you follow my Twitch account. Why? Well, apart from buying my computer and a lot of my current equipment for video editing, I would also like to do some regular streaming, and, you know, that would be fun. This could be streaming games that I've never played before, or just hanging out on Halo with anybody that wants to come and join. So, if you can tolerate me on yet another platform, there's a link in the description just for you. Thank you very much. Now, let's talk about Flood in Halo Infinite. Again. A few years ago, when I started getting involved in the commentary side of things, I put together this video about the Flood, specifically on the topic of whether they should be a relevant entity or threat in Halo Infinite or not. If you're interested in what I had to say before, then I will link that down below as well, but to summarize the whole thing, I didn't believe that it was in Infinite's best interests to have so much going on in the story. Not to say that Infinite has a poor writer, or writers of course, I don't know that, but you have to admit that sometimes stories can shoot beyond what can be realistically accomplished in a single narrative, and that can result in the whole thing collapsing under the weight of its own ambition. What I'm trying to say is that if you have the Covenant remnants, the created army with the Guardians, and now the Flood to boot, it creates what I believe is an opposing force that is far too great to overcome. Or at the very least, too great of a force to overcome in a satisfying way. As stubborn as humanity is in Halo, I don't believe that they alone are going to somehow defeat these factions without, you know, some kind of unexplained foreigner magic mumbo-jumbo that gives them a key advantage. And even if they did find something, is that really a satisfying ending? In my original video, I said that I would rather see the story focus on what happens next with Cortana, the Created, and that conflict. I wanted the story to wrap up and keep grounded and realistic within the confines of the Halo universe so badly. But recently, I sat back and I really thought to myself, hang on a second. Am I prioritizing my care of the lore over my desire for fun? Because it sure sounds like I am, and yes I was. That's exactly what I was doing. I wasn't being honest with myself and what I would really like to see. I can and will speak only for myself when I say this, but I really don't care all that much for the Created as an opposing force. I was never invested in the conflict presented in Halo 5 at launch, and I'm still not invested in the conflict in 2020. I have no significant interest in seeing that plot resolve itself. 343 could retcon the majority of Halo 5 with a wave of their hand, and it wouldn't faze me, not one bit. And furthermore, as far as enemies go, Prometheans are my least favorite enemies in Halo. They don't seem like something Forerunners would build. It's just my opinion here, but they feel so disconnected from the universe they inhabit, and I think that's partially due to the design. I need to clarify, I truthfully appreciate the work that they put into these enemies. I do, but they're really not my cup of tea. The Flood, on the other hand, are more to my taste. And an added beauty of them is that you can give them just about any kind of shape or form, and it would be accepted because they are parasitic life forms that distort and turn creatures into horrible things. Back in Halo CE, the intention behind the Flood becomes clear pretty quickly in a very memorable moment. When you're trapped in the cramped room with swarms of infection forms coming at you from all angles before it reveals what happens to those unfortunate enough to get too close to them. The Covenant was a threat, but these things are something else entirely. I don't want another game where we're fighting Created or Prometheans, or this storyline with Cortana. Just being honest. There seems like a golden opportunity with Infinite, especially given where the game takes place. For some context, it seems very apparent now that Infinite is going to largely take place on Installation 07. This ring has a lot of history and was the primary site for a lot of conflict. I don't want to put too much focus on the lore here because the majority of context behind 07 is found in external media. But this place has some amazing points of interest that I believe could not only add some well-needed intrigue back to Halo, but could also give us some of those juicy and spooky and uneasy moments. One of the best possible places to come by in Infinite would be an abandoned Palace of Pain. I'm sure there's a good chunk of people who know exactly what the Palace of Pain is, but if you're not familiar, there were many foreigner facilities on the surface of this ring that conducted horrific experiments on humans and other creatures. They did this in an attempt to find a cure for the Flood, including direct exposure to Flood specimens. Ultimately, the foreigners failed and a cure was not found, but just think about this for a moment. Imagine a point in the story where you stumble upon one of these facilities and you discover the horrors that it has inside. We could be seeing pure Flood forms locked away in stasis, skeletal remains of some creatures, humans, foreigners, or whatever else was trapped below. That could offer up an opportunity for some really uneasy moments, and imagine the stoic chief seeing these things again while experiencing what this must be like for the pilot character. This guy who just wants to get home, seeing these things. Since Installation 07 also acted as a massive Flood research facility, it only makes sense that there would be some kind of dormant or maybe even active Flood below the surface locked away. And don't forget, the ring has been split. We have yet to discover how, but the ring has been split. Who knows what could have gotten free from that? But Flood aside, there's still the trouble with the Created. I may not want the Created as the central threat of Infinite, but it doesn't mean that I would toss them aside. If I could do it, I'd likely have Cortana start off as the threat, but have the rug pulled out from under her early into the story in favour of the Flood, effectively making the Created a fake-out antagonist. If you remember from Halo 5, Cortana made her goals quite clear. She wants to control everything to protect everything. Destroying one or two civilizations to save the majority may seem like a worthwhile sacrifice in her eyes. If the Flood gained leverage, they would quickly become the central threat once more. But again, Cortana wants to save everything, not destroy. If the Flood were to come back again, their goals would be the polar opposite of her own, meaning that this could develop a potential alliance between the Created, the Covenant, Remnants, and humanity, like the alliance with the Elites in Halo 3. If I could do it that way, I would likely have Cortana be destroyed at the end as a sacrifice, maybe to give her some kind of redemption, but also because don't take this the wrong way, I kind of believe that she should have stayed dead. That sounds really bad, but that's my way of kind of trying to return her to a status that I believe she needs to go to. I don't know what I'm saying. Exactly where the Chief, the pilot, and anybody else would fit into this, I'm not sure, and like most of the things that I present in my videos, it's not a flawless concept. I'm not a genius. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about half the time, but I try, I have fun. And nor is this the story that most people would like. I mean, Halo 5 was a game with a very polarizing story. It confused, angered, amused, and threw off a lot of people. But it's not without its fans, and I can respect that some folks out there would prefer to stay the course and have Chief duke it out with Cortana and her new army. I'm just of the opinion that between a potential Flood resurgence and losing what was established in Halo 5, it would be a bigger shame to lose the Flood resurgence. I'll always be a Halo story nerd. I can't see that changing. So whatever 343 does go with for Infinite, I hope that it works out in a way that satisfies new fans, old fans, and strengthens the overall universe. But that's all the time that I have for today. As I said earlier on, if you're happy to do so, please come and throw a follow on Twitch and get in some games when we go live and stuff. I think I'm done with my YouTube break now, so I should be uploading semi-regularly again too. Anyway, this was a video, I'm that Spearhead guy, and I will see you around.